Hey everyone, welcome to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K. I had a chance to speak to Matt Harvey of Left to Die. The band have put together re-recorded versions of the demos of Mantis and Dead. The album is titled Initium Mortis. We talk about the album, covering death, and a lot more. But before we get into my chat, I'd like to play a track by Fuming Mouth. They've got a new album out, The Ringing Bell, and it fucking sounds amazing. Here's one of the singles from it, Cheat Death. And that was Cheat Death by Fuming Mouth of their album The Ringing Bell. As always, link to the show notes. Do check out the rest of the album. And now on to my chat with Matt Harvey from Left to Die. Hey Matt, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, so it's great to speak to you, and especially like we're talking on a day where your album actually releases today. So congratulations on the first Left to Die album.
Yeah, it's been a strange road to get here, but it's been a good road. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because like when I was reading up on the entire project and the stuff that you guys have been doing, take us back through like briefly, if you could, all the way from you had that idea with the journalist to kind of record some of the Mantis and Death songs, all the way to here we are talking about Nitis Mortis. How did it all kind of come together?
Well, as soon as we announced that we were doing gigs as Left to Die and we were going to do all the leprosy stuff, people immediately were like, "Are you guys going to record something? Are you guys writing? Are you guys this? Are you guys doing?" They were like, "No, dude, we're just playing shows. Like, let's take it down. We're just going to play some gigs and see what happens." And playing shows led to playing more shows, and people kept asking us. And we kind of talked about writing some stuff. And just because of the pedigree of Terry and Rick with Leprosy and From Beyond, and their discographies, we would be looking at a pretty difficult yardstick to measure up to, especially selfishly for me. I felt like I was going to be inviting myself to a lot of comparisons that I would really rather not have, like, who does this guy think he is? He's not the new Chuck and I'm not Chuck's replacement. I'm not, Chuck 2 or whatever. I'm just helping Terry and Rick play the fucking songs. Anyway, and then yeah, when I was doing press for Gruesome, and this Belgian gentleman asked me about the cover Gruesome had done of Legion of Doom. And he was like, yeah, I'd really like to hear more stuff like that, because most of the songs I've never really heard them with good production or anything. And I was like, there it is, like light bulb moment. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh yeah, we could just do that for a record. And then that way, because people keep asking us if we're going to record something. We do, we have good chemistry. We enjoy playing together. We like working together. Like, so this just makes sense, and it's something that we could do pretty easily, and it would be fun, and hopefully, serve serve the audience as well, because a lot of death fans are probably not super familiar with this stuff, and a lot of it has never really been recorded better than with a boombox in Chuck's parents' house in 1984. So yeah, and then here we are. Yeah.
It's interesting, right? Also that you say that because like you wanted to play live with Rick and Terry. I was reading an interview that Rick did, and I quote him where he said, Matt's discipline and work ethic is the only reason why this entire record and everything exists. What's your reaction to that, and how do you feel about everything? Because let's be honest, it's true, right?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of factors. I mean, basically, I have my own studio. Gus has his own studio. So recording for us is very easy. It's like I'm here, 4, 6 days a week, either practicing or doing mail or just using, here, using it as an office. So on one hand, sure. I mean, I guess I was able to be the driving force there. But on the other hand, I mean, ultimately, without the material that Rick and Cam and Chuck worked on 40 years ago, we don't have anything. So all the discipline and work ethic in the world doesn't doesn't mean shit without the actual songs, And I mean, the other thing is it's easy to be disciplined and want to work on a project like this because I love the songs, and I've had my own bootleg tapes of these, certainly since the mid '90s. The one I got the most play out of is there's a live with Nasty Savage. I think it's like New Year's Eve, 1985 or something like that. And it's just such a great recording, so raw and powerful. So I mean, the material is really the driving force. Where I'm just here to help the material. It's the same thing as live. And it's material that I have a lot of affection and reverence and respect for. So hopefully we did an okay job.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I actually read you were not even a teenager when you first heard some of this material, right? What was it
Oh,
like?
go ahead.
What is it like kind of revisiting some of it? Because I'm sure probably during your teenage or stuff like that, you kind of discovered Mantis and Death and stuff like that. So like all these years later, like you said, what is it like revisiting some of this material?
It's funny because when I was learning to play, I started with Metallica, learning those riffs and trying to play that, and then Celtic Frost, which was a little bit easier, thankfully, and then Death. Those are kind of the three bands that I probably learned the most from in terms of just learning their riffs and stuff. So, obviously I heard the records first, and then I came to the demos and stuff a few years later in like it was probably like late teens, early 20s or whatever by the time I started getting those bootlegs in like 94-ish probably. But going back to this material, I mean, even the material that we played live, I mean, it just feels kind of like, it feels like going back to your old hometown and like seeing your friends that you haven't seen in years. Like these songs have been with me. I mean, yeah, 30 plus years at this point. So it is just kind of like hanging out with an old friend, and it's that nostalgia, and it's that kind of, there's a bittersweetness to it all, obviously, with Chuck being dead. I mean, that sucks. I would much rather that Left to Die never existed and Chuck was here, like doing all these songs, like that's, or just doing whatever it was. Who knows? Maybe he would have just done Control Denied forever. But I mean, just the whole thing is bittersweet, but it's also great. And, I mean, I love this material and I'm trying to do justice to it. And, it's part of who I am as a guitar player and as a musician. And I'm just trying to express it the best way I know how.
Okay, and I know this might be a little tough question to ask you, but like, what's a track you think, like, you thought you had it and you knew it, and then when you started like breaking it down and started to record it, you were like, "Fuck, this is far like tougher than I thought it would be."
There was a few things like that, and really, especially with this material, because it's so early on in their career, it wasn't that it was harder than I thought it would be. It was so hard to hear. I was like,
Yeah.
what is happening here? I did this demo of Summon to Die, which was one of my favorite songs on the record. And I was like, man, this kicks ass. Like, yeah, I love this song. It's so good. And then I sent it to everybody, and Rick's like, yeah, that's you're playing that riff backwards, dude. And I was like, no, come on. I'm like telling the guy that was there, fucking writing these songs with Chuck and Cam. No, come on. And I was like, okay, all right. And went back and listened, and I was like, God, fuck, you're right. All right. Thank you, Rick. So it's nice, like to have that backstop of, of somebody to step in and be like, nope, that's not what it was. And, it was helpful on some of the lyrics as well, because, yeah, they're very difficult to decipher.
So, you know, I have to kind of talk at this point because you said this project literally started with paying tribute to Leprosy, the Death album. And now you're like kind of not only taking it to Europe in a couple of weeks, but then later on in Latin America. What's like the strangest or the most encouraging response that you'll have got from some of these live shows?
You know, there was a couple moments, we did a show a couple years ago in Chile, and it was just fucking lunacy. Like we got there and I was like, this is a big venue. Like they're like, oh yeah, we have like 800 pre-sales. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm glad that we have this big venue then. And we're playing, and there's this huge circle pit. And these guys out there with fucking flares, like emergency flares in the pit while we're playing Infernal Death. And I'm, singing all about, fire and all this stuff. And I was just like, this is pretty crazy, man. This is pretty cool. Like, wow. And another one that sticks out for me, there was one like this in Europe and one in the States. The one in the States we played in Chicago, and my buddy Scott from Cyanide came out, and I'm an old guy, but he's older than me. And I'm a bit of a curmudgeon, but he's more curmudgeonly than me. And I was like, oh shit. So we played the show, and he was like, man, that was killer. And I was like, really? Like, he's like, no, that was killer. I was like, I would tell you if it sucked, but it was like, okay, wow, thanks, man. That's really cool. And we did a show in Oakland, and Chris from Autopsy came out, and he came and sound checked with us, and then played we did Infernal Death and I think Evil Dead with him. And he's like, man, I haven't played these songs with people since 1987. I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, wow. So, it's really cool to kind of, because these were guys that I looked up to as a kid, and to sort of see them as peers and to see them being like, hey, nice job. Like, cool, because I mean, if anybody knows what this stuff is supposed to sound like, it's it's Chris Reifert.
Yeah.
It's Scott Cyanide, it's the guys from Grave that all came out when we were in Sweden and hung out. Mike Amick came out to a gig that we did in Thailand. Another one of my fucking absolute guitar heroes. The death metal Michael Schenker is telling me that he really liked our set, and I was just like, oh my god, like he was even commenting on a couple little things that I did, and I was like, man, I'm so glad that I did not think you would be paying that close attention, because I would have been really self-conscious. Like, dude, I'm in front of Mike Amick, like, fuck. So that means a lot to me, you know. And when we played in Orlando, Beth, Chuck's sister, came out, and I just had a really nice talk with her, you know, not like we're close friends or anything, but she's really sweet and has been really encouraging with both Gruesome and Left to Die. And that, you know, that means a lot because, you know, Chuck's music is very important to me. And I, you know, whether I succeed or fail, you know, I'm doing everything with, you know, I'm coming from a place of love and respect. And if you don't like the records, that's fine. Or you don't want to see us live, that's fine. But if you think that it's not, that there's something exploitative or disrespectful about it, that is the part that would make me sad. You know, you don't have to, you can be like, this guy sucks. His heart's in the right place. He's trying hard, but he sucks. It's like, all right, cool, fair enough. As long as you think I'm trying my best and that my heart's in the right place, because I'm trying my absolute fucking best, you know.
No, and I appreciate. I mean, like, as someone who lives halfway across the world and like never grew up in a complete different era and didn't really get to see Chuck, I think like you guys are actually like setting the word out and getting new people to kind of discover this music. So kudos to you guys, man.
Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, that's the best we can hope for, you know. And I think, you know, Rick has been a part of this thing, you know, since the beginning, you know, since high school for these guys, you know, him and Cam and Chuck, just three kids bashing it out in their parents' garage. You know, it's a beautiful thing to see, you know, the stuff that they did and what they started, you know, the legs that it has had is just, it's remarkable. And to be able to help see that through is really cool as a, you know, cause I'm just a fan, you know, I'm just some guy.
Yeah. And, you know, before I let you go, a few months ago, I spoke to Ross, and it was
Cool.
crazy just to think that, like, you guys were on the road with at least your band, and you're now on the road with Left to Die. Where do people see you live next in the coming few months? What's next with, I don't know,
Um,
Exhumed, Gruesome, Left to Die? Which other project am I missing out on?
Funnily enough, Ross and I and Gus from Left to Die and Gruesome are playing next week in San Diego. It's like a San Diego Comic-Con adjacent show where we're doing the Transformers animated movie soundtrack with like
Oh
Stan
shit! Yeah,
Bush.
yeah, yeah. I love that.
Doing that next week, and we're playing with Cold Slither, which is like the GI Joe villain band. And then at the end of the month, we leave. Left to Die leaves for Europe for 2 weeks, and then we're going to Latin America for a month, and then you know, Exhumed has some stuff in the works that will be announced very soon, I'm sure. So you know, it's always working, always somewhere, you know.
So that's what I called Ross when I was speaking to him. Like, you guys are literally road warriors, and I think you kind of truly embody that.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That was Matt Harvey of Left to Die, and let's hear a track from Initium Mortis. Here's Legion of Doom. and that was Left to Die with Legion of Doom. I've left a link to their album Initium Mortis. Do check it out. If you're in Europe or Latin America, do check them out live. Check out their website or social media for dates. As always, before I sign off, hit subscribe, follow on whichever platform you're listening to, and maybe get in touch and let me know which artist you'd like to hear on the podcast on upcoming episodes. I'll see you guys very soon. Cheers.